As I mentioned previously, you can't have any more than one audio event playing on a single track, which is different than MIDI, so the comping lanes work differently between MIDI-based tracks and audio tracks. For example, on this drum track, we had two different events playing simultaneously. We could just mute one of those events if we wanted to hear this without the cymbals. We can mute those cymbals out by using the mute tool. But for audio tracks, there's actually a tool called the comp tool. So I'm going to re-enable the mute on that cymbals event and then close up those MIDI lanes. Now let's open up the bass track from our previous video, but I'm going to hit undo a few times to get those 3 takes that we recorded back. And I'm going to select all of them and move them up so that my first take is on my first lane, just so that I can see that a little bit more easily. And right now, it's the bottom event that we're hearing. We're not hearing any of these other 2 events on these lanes. We're only hearing the highlighted one. But what if we wanted to audition this one or this one? Maybe the first half of this one is really good and the second half of this one is really good. Well, we could choose which one we want to audition by going to the comp tool, which is up here in the toolbar, and it's represented by that hand. Or you can also right or control click and choose that hand icon to get to the comp tool. You'll notice now your mouse pointer turns into a finger point tool. And with that, you can point to the one that you want to hear. So here we'd be listening to this take. So when I start the playback, that's the one that I'll hear. Or if I wanted to hear this one, which is going to stop right here because it's terrible. Bad recording, but we're not hearing anything because that's the one that is highlighted and there's no data in that event past measure number 5. So let's listen to this one instead. Or this one. And if you really wanted to hear them in context, you could press the S key on your computer keyboard. That will solo that track. And that way you can really hear what's going on. So here's our first take. Second take, which is empty right there. Our third take. It's going to come around again. So now we're listening to the first take. And I like that one. This one actually has some nice things in it until about measure number 4. So what I'll do is I'll make some cuts on these events. So to do that with a comp tool, I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key on my computer keyboard. You'll notice that the pointer has now turned into a scissors. And so at measure 4, I'm going to click, and you'll notice that it's put a slice down that entire list of events. But now with the comp tool, I can choose which events I want to use. For example, this measure of this take plus the rest of it played out on this take. Let's listen to how that sounds. And I'll show you more comping options later, but those are the basics of comping. It gives you a method of choosing the take that you want to use or combinations of all the different takes that have been recorded on one track on the comping lanes. And next, let's talk about recording through the effects.